For 33 days, that's right, 33 days, 333 people will win $333 in cash,
Get ready for some instant wins, Georgia, because for 33 days, 333 people will instantly win $333. That's at least 10 instant winners a day.
Numbers are everywhere, there's enough to share, so pick and play Cash 3.
It all ends February 15th, so play Cash 3 from the Georgia Lottery. Play responsibly.
You're listening to LSU Daily with Matt Musso, your home for all things LSU sports.
Off and running here on another edition of LSU Daily. Welcome in and glad to have you along for the ride. A busy Monday for LSU football, making some pretty good headlines and some not so good headlines as well. We'll tell you all about it. 2 new staff members brought aboard by Brian Kelly and LSU. We'll break both of those down. Of course, you saw a decommitment on a player that we talked about on Monday, and that news did in fact come down later in the afternoon. We'll tell you what it means, some background on the player, and go a little bit more in depth than we were able to on Monday morning when we recorded the show. And then, of course, with time permitting, which it should, a preview of LSU's outfield. The Fighting Tigers starting Jay Johnson's 4th season just 10 days from now. So it inches ever so closer when LSU will throw out the first pitch against Purdue Fort Wayne on Valentine's Day. So let's go ahead and dive right into it, shall we? Again, subscribe, share, like. Follow me on social media, Twitter X, at Musso Matthew, on Instagram, at Matthew Musso1. All of that is greatly appreciated. We start with the staff hires, the new staff hires for Brian Kelly. You know, it's been an interesting winding road kind of with LSU staff this offseason. While there wasn't actually much turnover with the on-field staff, the only defection was Slade Nagel taking the offensive coordinator job at Houston, so you needed to replace tight ends coach and special teams coordinator in a sense. Then Bob Diaco leaves, who is an analyst, but was, so intricate and so involved in what LSU does on special teams. Kind of had 2 openings there created. And then you saw support staff and analysts leave for other options. But, look, LSU got the hiring cycle started with Aman Anand as the special teams coordinator. Then you saw Alex Atkins come aboard as your tight ends coach. And now you've started to see them kind of add to the analyst pool as well to replace guys that they have lost. On Monday afternoon, Wilson Alexander from The Advocate was the first to report that former Oklahoma State quarterbacks coach and former NFL quarterback himself, Tim Rattay, is joining LSU staff as an offensive analyst. This move makes a ton of sense. I actually like this hire a lot. You know, we often talk about boxes that it checks. This is one of those that checks all the boxes. When you look at Tim Rattay as just an NFL player, 13-year career in the NFL, played with the 49ers, among others, has coaching experience at the NFL level when it comes to quarterbacks, and then obviously what he did at Oklahoma State, and we'll get into a little bit of that here momentarily. But Tim Rattay played his college football at Louisiana Tech. He then worked for LSU offensive coordinator Joe Sloan when he was at Louisiana Tech. So played at Louisiana Tech, coached at Louisiana Tech. What box does that check? Ties to the state of Louisiana. He's coaching up at La Tech. He's recruiting the state. That's big. Wealth of coaching experience at the NFL and college level, check. Familiarity with a current coach on the staff, check. The hire of Tim Rattay from that standpoint, like the intangible standpoint in a sense, or just the prerequisites, let's say that, the prerequisite standpoint, is a smash hit. And he spent 5 years on staff at Louisiana Tech as well, by the way. So plenty of ties to the state. And that's been a trend now that you're seeing with just about everybody on Brian Kelly's staff. And that's how it should be done. As far as what he brings to LSU on the field, because remember, it's an analyst role, sure, but analysts can coach on the field in practice. As said off the top, his most recent stint was at Oklahoma State. He was there from 2020 through 2024, the guy you're going to know most notably that he coached is Spencer Sanders, and he had a lot of success coaching Spencer Sanders. And there's a few things we'll talk about there where I think this is just massive, bringing him in for Garrett Nussmeier's final year. For one, obviously, look, it's another voice who's familiar with Joe Sloan, who knows the way Joe Sloan likes to coach the quarterbacks. They can work in tandem, and I don't think that should be too much of an overload for Garrett Nussmeier, especially in this late in his career. He's a veteran guy. He can handle that. But when you look at what Tim Rattay was able to do with Spencer Sanders, he coached him starting in 2020 all the way through 2022. So he had 3 years with him. And over those 3 years, he increased his total offense and threw a lower percentage of interceptions every single year that he was working with Tim Rattay. And the interceptions thing is something that absolutely stands out to me. Because while Garrett Nussmeier had a fantastic year, and he did, Garrett Nussmeier was awesome in 2024. Let's make that painfully clear. Garrett Nussmeier was awesome in 2024. The interceptions were an issue at times for him again. That is the part of the game he's got to work on a little bit. That, and scouts will tell you deep ball accuracy. I think LSU did not have the weapons on the outside this year to really showcase Nussmeier with the deep ball. You saw it in the bowl game when Chris Hilton was back. You saw it against Oklahoma when Chris Hilton was back. The deep ball accuracy is fine when he's got somebody who can go down there and get it. I mean, he's got someone who can actually stretch the field. So I think you'll just see a bigger jump in that regard from Nussmeier anyway in 2025 because he's going to have those guys, Barry and Brown, Chris Hilton. He's got them now. But the turnovers are something that has to be limited. And when you look at Spencer Sanders in 2020, his first year under Rattay, his interception percentage was lowered by 1.9%. In his second year under Rattay, another 0.2% lower. And then as a senior, another 0.6% lower. By the end of it, Rattay had Sanders just about at a 3-to-1 touchdown to turnover ratio, which that plays. And no disrespect to Spencer Sanders, he had a very nice college career. Garrett Nussmeier has a higher upside there, so you could expect for that ceiling to be even higher for Garrett Nussmeier. So I love the hire, bringing in Tim Rattay. I think this is just what you really need for Garrett Nussmeier's last season of college football to help him even take his game even more higher, to new heights, to the next level even more. Because we've already seen what Joe Sloan can do developing quarterbacks. I mean, look at Jaden Daniels. He gets a ton of credit for that. Garrett Nussmeier took strides last season. Now there can be even more with Sloan having one of his buddies back in the building that he knows how to work in tandem with in Tim Rattay. So that's a huge hire. They weren't done, though. On Monday evening, Matt Zenitz from 247 Sports reports that LSU is set to add another staff, another analyst, this time on the defensive side of the ball. And this one is Noah Joseph, who most recently served as the general manager of ECU, and before that, the general manager of Purdue. Before he stepped into those general manager roles, he was a very accomplished defensive coach. Like Tim Rattay, he has ties to this LSU staff already. Before Joseph took the GM job at Purdue, he was an analyst at Missouri, where he worked under LSU defensive coordinator Blake Baker. They worked together for 2 seasons at Mizzou. So, again, you love that continuity, bringing it in, a guy who understands the vision, knows what Blake Baker wants, knows how Blake Baker operates his defense. He can come in, help immediately. Just step right in. We talk all the time about plug and play. Guys in the transfer portal or whatnot, LSU's getting plug and play analysts here in Rattay and Joseph. Before that, this is also a guy that has defensive coordinator experience. He spent 2 seasons at Rutgers as the co-defensive coordinator. He's had stops at Indiana. Plenty of power conference coaching experience. And what's more is he's worked all over the field. When he was Rutgers co-defensive coordinator, he was also the safeties coach. At Indiana, he oversaw safeties and served as a recruiting coordinator on the defensive side of the ball. So specialty is in secondary, but can obviously help in multiple roles. But you already know what I'm going to say why this is huge. Where was the specialty that we just talked about? Safeties. And y'all, LSU safety play a season ago was bad. There really is no way to sugarcoat it. It was the worst part of your team. We all know that. We've talked about it now ad nauseum for, 7-8 months, really, to this point? Getting close on that. He can come in and help you there. You've brought in some transfers. You're hoping that, Javian Toviano could take the next step, that Jordan Gilbert takes the next step, that Deshaun Spears takes the next step. This is a guy in Noah Joseph that can absolutely help out in that realm. So, slam dunk hire for me here on this one too. LSU, Brian Kelly is putting together a staff without any holes. That's his goal. That's what he's attempting to do here. And on the surface, it looks like he's done it. And you got a fifth-year quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier coming back for a second year starting, coming off of a great season, but how can you take him to the next level? Well, let's bring in a quarterbacks coach who's worked under Joe Sloan, who has, a history of lowering players' turnover percentage, and take Garrett Nussmeier to the next level, because you're not going to get to where you want to go without another stellar season from Garrett Nussmeier. And also, you want to help Nuss when it comes to his draft stock. Okay, what was the worst position group on your team last year? Safeties. Well, you've addressed it in the portal and through recruiting, but how can you take it to the next level on the field? Well, let's go ahead and get a guy who's not only got roster building experience, and defensive coordinator experience, but has coached safeties at an elite level everywhere that he's been in power conference football. Okay, let's go bring that guy in as an analyst. And oh, by the way, he has worked under Blake Baker. He gets it. They are sewing up, or they are attempting to sew up all the loose ends and build a staff without any holes. And on paper, it looks like they've done it. We'll truly get our answer when they tee it up and kick it off against Clemson on August 30th. But so far, it looks like Brian Kelly is building himself a staff that is capable of winning a national championship. And we're going to punctuate this conversation the same way every time at this point. He better, because there are no more excuses now. The roster is where you want it. This is your roster. That's it. And this is now your staff. You have made the changes that you want to make. You have gotten the guys in those positions that you wanted to have. And you've built it in the image of what plenty of other LSU staffs that have won championships have been built in. August 30th starts put up or shut up time. It just does. And the way it's trending more towards put up. And that's a good thing. And that's going to create for a lot of excitement heading into spring practice, which, by the way, starts on March the 8th. And into the summer, into the fall, and into that first game against Clemson. Fun times. Fun times coming for LSU football. That's the good news with the Tiger football program. The bad news is JaReylen McCoy, Monday afternoon, decommits from LSU after like a month and a day of being committed. He not even a full month and a day. Call it a month. He committed to LSU on January 2nd at the Under Armour All-American game. We talked about him then when he did. Defensive lineman out of Tupelo, Mississippi, 6'6.5", 245, a 4-star, the number 8 defensive lineman in the country per on 3, the number 5 player in the state of Mississippi per on 3. It was a really big get for LSU at that time. But it's important to note that when he committed, he made it known that he was open to taking visits, exploring his options, and continuing to build relationships, as you often see in recruiting. And he had done that. When he chose LSU, it was over Tennessee and USC. Obviously, Tupelo, Mississippi, you know the Mississippi schools are going to be involved, and Ole Miss has really been the most heavily involved as of recent weeks. He's taken 2 visits in the last 3 weeks to Oxford, including Junior Day. And that was kind of what we talked about on Monday's show, where he was supposed to be at LSU's Junior Day, instead showed up at Ole Miss for his second visit in 3 weeks. That's never a good sign. You have a long way to go in this recruitment. And it's early, but that's never a good sign when something like that happens. Lo and behold, later Monday afternoon, the decommitment comes down, and everybody is looking right now at Ole Miss to be that school. But McCoy spoke to On 3, said, quote, "I just need to think about things a little more. LSU is a great school, and I love Coach Peoples, so LSU is still in the mix, but I just wanted to open things back up," end quote. He also went on to name Alabama, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and LSU as the schools that are on the radar after his decision to decommit. So, look, it's early in the process. It is February the 4th. And you have a long way to go to the early signing period. Is JaReylen McCoy going to end up back in LSU's class? I don't know. If I had to tell you right now, probably not. But we'll see. But yeah, it makes more sense that the local kid in Mississippi is going to stay home. Especially after such an early commitment and then early decommitment. But we'll see. One thing's for sure, though. You trust in Bo Davis and Kevin Peoples to go out and recruit their ass off and get plenty of talent on the defensive line. And in the meantime, you stay on JaReylen McCoy because he's a prospect that you would like to have. I mean, he's a top 130 guy in the nation and a top 10 at his position. So, yeah, that's a guy you want. Like, if you can get him back in the class, you do it. But LSU will play their cards, and they'll do what's best for the program. So we'll just keep you updated on how that goes. But after 2 visits in 3 weeks to Ole Miss and a month committed to LSU, JaReylen McCoy has reopened things in his recruitment for the class of 2026. Hey, the traditional signing day is Wednesday. It should be a relatively quiet day for LSU. Hayes in the barn there, but, just a reminder, that day still exists. All right, well, we have a little bit of time. Do I want to do this now, or do I want to wait for when I have more time? You know what? We're going to wait. We're going to wait to where I have a little bit more time to talk about LSU's outfield, because it's an interesting conversation with a lot of different players that could factor in. And I don't want to go too long here on this show because I actually have to go record Musso at the Box as well. So we're going to wrap it up there. On Wednesday's show, we will do our LSU outfield preview here on LSU Daily. One will drop much more in depth on Musso at the Box. But Wednesday, we will do the LSU outfield preview and probably another position group, depending on what other news is happening around the LSU athletics. So that's going to wrap it up for today. Smash the like, get subscribed, share, follow on social media. All of that is greatly appreciated. Be here next time for more on LSU Daily.
For 33 days, that's right, 33 days, 333 people will win $333 in cash, 3 cash.
Get ready for for some instant wins, Georgia, because for 33 days, 333 people will instantly win $333. That's at least 10 instant winners a day.
Numbers are everywhere, there's enough to share, so pick and play Cash 3.
It all ends February 15th, so play Cash 3 from the Georgia Lottery. Play responsibly.